They sold her wedding
Stay
dress for
close to me.
500 gold to cover
I'm so
gambling
scared.
debts,
I
then
won't
threw
let
her
them
into a
harm
blizzard
you.
with
No,
3
sir.
copper coins. But when 22-year-old Rowan Thorn accidentally embraced Alaric Nightshade, a 500-year-old vampire king, in the snow, mistaking him for a dying friend, he felt something he'd lost for 5 centuries, a phantom heartbeat. In 14 days, the girl Thornwick called worthless would pass a blood trial that killed hundreds, solve a 200-year war no elder could crack, and break an ancient curse by pouring her only salvation into the mouth of a monster. This is how a desperate hug in the frost became a crown, and how the coldest king learned to feel the sun. The clock in Thornwick's town square struck 3 in the morning. Rowan Thorn's fingers bled, she didn't notice. The needle moved through white silk, in and out, each stitch a prayer, the wedding dress draped across her lap like a ghost. Candlelight flickered across seed pearls she'd sewn by hand. 47 hours of work, 212 pearls, everyone placed with hope. In 6 days, she would marry Dorian. In 6 days, she would have a home that couldn't be taken away. The door slammed open. Rowan's hand jerked. The needle drove deep into her thumb. Blood bloomed across white silk like a crimson flower. "No," she whispered. Lady Morgana stood in the doorway, tall, severe, the kind of woman who wore black even to summer festivals. Her eyes found the dress, found the blood spreading across the bodice. A smile cracked across her face like ice breaking. "How fitting," Lady Morgana said. Her voice could freeze wine in the glass. "You've already ruined it." Rowan pressed her bleeding thumb against her apron. "I can fix it. The blood will come out if I—" "You misunderstand." Lady Morgana stepped forward. Behind her, a merchant in dark clothes waited. "I'm not here about the stain." Rowan's heart began to hammer. "Madame Cresswell's daughter is getting married in 3 weeks," Lady Morgana continued. She ran one finger along the dress's neckline. "She needs a gown. This one will do nicely." The words didn't make sense. Rowan shook her head. "This is my wedding dress." "Was." Lady Morgana lifted the dress from Rowan's lap. White silk spilled through her hands like water. "I've sold it for 500 gold, which barely covers what I lost at cards last month." The room tilted. Rowan grabbed the table edge. "You can't." Her voice came out small, broken. "I'm getting married in 6 days. Dorian's mother can expect whatever she likes." Lady Morgana handed the dress to the merchant. He folded it with practiced efficiency. "You'll wear something else, or wear nothing at all. I don't particularly care." Rowan stood. Her legs shook, but she stood. "My father left me that silk in his will. You have no right." The slap came fast, hard enough to snap Rowan's head to the side. "Your father." Lady Morgana's face twisted. "Your father left me with debts and a drafty house and 2 useless girls to feed. Don't speak to me about rights." Blood and salt filled Rowan's mouth. She touched her lip. Her fingers came away red. The merchant shifted uncomfortably. "Madam, perhaps we should—" "Wait downstairs," Lady Morgana said. She didn't look at him. "I'll bring the dress in a moment." The merchant left. His footsteps faded. Silence filled the attic like water rising. Lady Morgana moved to the trunk at the foot of Rowan's bed. She opened it, began pulling out the few things Rowan owned: a winter cloak, 2 plain dresses, the prayer book Rowan's mother had carried. "What are you doing?" Rowan whispered. "You're leaving." Lady Morgana threw the clothes on the floor. "Tonight." The world stopped. "You can't. I live here. This is my home. This is my house." Lady Morgana slammed the trunk closed. "Your father has been dead 4 years. You've been a burden every single day since." "I work," Rowan said. Her voice cracked. "I make your dresses. I mend Alara's." "Alara." Lady Morgana's face softened for a moment. "Just a moment. My daughter has prospects. The baker's son has been calling. She'll make a good match, but not if people see her with a sister who has a nothing. Who is nothing." Each word landed like a stone. "Where am I supposed to go?" Rowan's hands clenched. "It's winter. The roads are not my concern." Lady Morgana pulled 3 copper coins from her pocket. She dropped them on the floor. They clinked against wood. "There's your inheritance, your father's great legacy. 3 coins and a mountain of debt." She walked to the door, stopped, turned back. "Dorian came by yesterday," she said, almost casual. "I told him about the dress, about the debts, about how you have nothing to bring to a marriage except more poverty." Rowan's breath caught. "He was very understanding," Lady Morgana continued. "He agreed that a man in his position couldn't afford to marry down. Not that far down." The floor felt like it was falling away. "You're lying." Am I? Lady Morgana smiled. She pulled something from her pocket, tossed it. The ring bounced twice before rolling to a stop near Rowan's foot. The engagement ring Dorian had given her 6 months ago. Simple iron, all he could afford, all she'd needed. He said to tell you he's sorry. Lady Morgana's voice held no sympathy. He said you'd understand. A blacksmith's apprentice can't marry a girl with nothing. The ring lay on the floor between them. Rowan couldn't move, couldn't breathe. You have until dawn, Lady Morgana said. After that, I'm bolting the doors. If you're still here, I'll have the constable remove you. She left. Her footsteps faded, the front door opened, closed. The merchant's wagon creaked away. Silence rushed back in. Rowan stood in the center of her attic room. Blood dripped from her thumb, seeped from her split lip. The copper coins glinted in the candlelight. 3 coins. That's what her life had been reduced to. She looked at the ring, at the clothes scattered across the floor, at the empty trunk. Outside, snow began to fall, the kind of heavy, endless snow that buried things. Rowan picked up the coins. She left the ring where it lay. The streets of Thornwick slept under snow. Rowan walked through them like a ghost. Her thin cloak provided almost no warmth. Her boots, worn through at the sole, let in ice with every step. She carried nothing but the clothes on her back and 3 copper coins in her pocket. Everything else belonged to yesterday. The baker's shop was dark. The tavern shuttered. Even the church had locked its doors. No one wanted a homeless girl on a night like this. Rowan's feet carried her without thought. Through the market square, past the well where she'd drawn water every morning for 4 years. Down the narrow lane where Dorian's forge stood silent. She stopped. Light flickered in the window above the forge. Dorian's room. He was awake. Rowan's hand moved toward the door. She could knock, could ask him to explain, could beg him to change his mind. The light went out. Rowan's hand fell. She understood then. Lady Morgana hadn't lied. Dorian had chosen safety over love, security over promises. He'd chosen a future that didn't include her. Rowan turned away, kept walking. The snow fell harder. It covered her hair, her shoulders. Each flake felt like a tiny frozen kiss goodbye. At the edge of town, a path led into Thornwick Forest. The trees stood black against the white sky. No one went into the forest at night. Everyone knew better. Shadow Peak Mountain rose beyond the trees. The old citadel sat on its peak like a crown of darkness. For 500 years, it had stood empty. Cursed, according to the stories. Cursed or not, it was away from here. Rowan took the forest path. The frost came in layers. First it numbed her fingers, then her toes. Then it crept inward, settling into her bones like an unwelcome guest. Rowan stumbled over roots hidden beneath snow. Branches caught her cloak, tore it. The wind screamed through the trees, a sound like women weeping. She should turn back. But back to where? To Lady Morgana's locked doors? To Dorian's dark window? To a town that had watched her father die and decided his daughter wasn't worth saving? Forward. She had to keep moving forward. The trees grew denser. The path disappeared beneath drifts. Rowan pushed through snow up to her knees. Her breath came in ragged gasps. Each one burned. She thought of Caspian, the blacksmith, Dorian's master, the only person in Thornwick who'd ever treated her like she mattered. He'd gone hunting that morning, said he'd be back by sunset. But sunset had come and gone hours ago. If he was still out here, he'd freeze, just like she was freezing. Rowan's foot caught on something. She went down hard. Snow engulfed her, pressed in from all sides. Get up, she couldn't. Get up or die here. Her hands scrabbled against frozen ground. She pulled herself to her knees, then to her feet. Ahead through the trees, she saw orange light. Fire. Rowan ran, or tried to. Her legs barely worked. She crashed through the undergrowth like a wounded animal. Branches whipped her face. She didn't feel them. The light grew brighter. She burst into a clearing. A figure stood near the tree line. Tall, broad-shouldered, wearing a heavy dark cloak that blended with shadows. He faced away from her, looking up at Shadow Peak Mountain, perfectly still. Relief flooded through Rowan's chest, sharp and stinging like hot tea after hours in bitter wind. Caspian! The figure didn't turn. Rowan ran, her feet slipped. She didn't care. She crossed the clearing and threw herself at his back, wrapped her arms around his waist, pressed her face between his shoulder blades. The cloak was soft, expensive, far better than anything Caspian owned. That thought flickered through Rowan's mind for half a second. Then survival overwhelmed everything else. You idiot, she sobbed into the fabric. Her tears froze on her lashes. You almost died out here. You're freezing. Why are you so frozen? She squeezed tighter. tried to transfer her meager warmth into him. The figure beneath her arms felt like stone, unyielding, terrifyingly solid. No rise and fall of breath, no scent of wood smoke or sweat. Instead, something else. Ancient dust, cedarwood, the metallic tang of air before lightning strikes. Rowan's arms loosened. The figure moved, slowly. With a grace that felt predatory and wrong, he turned within her embrace. Rowan looked up. The breath died in her throat. This was not Caspian. The face looking down at her belonged to someone carved from marble and moonlight. Skin pale as winter itself, flawless. Deathly, high cheekbones led down to a jawline that could cut glass. Dark hair fell across his forehead in waves that looked like they'd never been touched by sun. But his eyes trapped her. They were silver. True silver, like coins, like mirrors. They reflected the firelight and the snow in Rowan's terrified face. They saw not just her features, but deeper. The pulse of blood through her veins, the desperate hammer of her heart. "You," the man said, his voice vibrated in Rowan's chest. Deep, melodic, ancient. It was the sound of glaciers cracking, of stone grinding against stone, of centuries compressed into a single word. "You are not the one I was expecting." Rowan tried to pull away. His hand caught her wrists, large, pale, inhumanly strong. The grip wasn't rough, but it was absolute. The grip of something that had never known weakness. Rowan's voice came out as a whisper. "I'm sorry, I thought, the snow, my friend." The man leaned down. His face came within inches of hers. She could see the faint dark circles beneath his eyes, the only sign of weariness on those immortal features. He didn't smell like a person. He smelled like the deep, dark places of the earth. "You hugged me," he whispered. Confusion flickered across his face, genuine confusion, like she'd done something incomprehensible. A human girl, shivering in the mud, offered her warmth to the King of Shadows. King. The word hung in the frozen air. Rowan's heart stopped, then started again. Faster. A frantic, trapped bird rhythm. Shadow Peak Citadel. The Vampire Lord. The stories were true. All of them. "Alaric," a voice called from the shadows. Male. Sharp as broken glass. A figure emerged from the tree line. Tall, gaunt, white hair falling to his shoulders, eyes that held centuries. "The perimeter is clear, my king," the man said. His voice dropped as he saw Rowan. "What is this? A snack found in the frost?" The vampire, Alaric, did not look at the newcomer. His gaze remained fixed on Rowan's face. He felt the frantic drum of her pulse against his palms. To him, it was music, a desperate, living rhythm in a world that had been silent for 5 centuries. "She is not a snack, Viridian," Alaric said softly. His thumb brushed over the thin skin of Rowan's wrist. "She is a mistake." A pause. A very warm mistake. Rowan's knees gave out. The terror finally overrode her survival instinct. The freeze crashed over her like a wave. Her vision blurred. As she began to sink into the snow, Alaric's arm swept around her, caught her before she hit the ground. For the second time that night, she was held against him. But this time, the world went black. Heat. That was the first thing Rowan felt. Not the flickering, unreliable heat of a village hearth. This was deep, radiating. It seeped into her bones like water into parched earth. She opened her eyes. Above her, a ceiling of dark, polished wood stretched into shadows. Intricate carvings covered every inch. Stars, weeping willows. Faces with hollow eyes that seemed to watch her. She tried to sit up. Her head throbbed. The room spun. "Drink this. It isn't poison, though you might find the taste lacking." Rowan turned her head. Sitting in a high-backed chair by a massive stone fireplace was the man from the woods. Alaric Nightshade, Vampire King, Lord of Shadow Peak. He no longer wore the heavy cloak. Instead, a simple black silk shirt. The sleeves rolled to reveal forearms lean and corded with muscle, pale as bone. In his hand, he held a crystal glass filled with deep crimson liquid. He wasn't looking at her. He watched the flames. Orange light danced in those silver eyes. "Where am I?" Rowan's voice came out as a rasp. "Obsidian Citadel." He gestured vaguely at the room. "My home. Or my prison, depending on the century." The words settled over Rowan like a shroud. "You're him," she whispered. The realization hit her like a physical blow. The king, Alaric Nightshade. The stories told in Thornwick were gruesome. They spoke of a king who drank the sun from the sky, who demanded tithes of blood from every family, who had lived for 500 years on the suffering of the poor. Alaric finally turned his gaze toward her. The villagers speak of me as a monster. His head tilted. Do I look like a monster to you, Rowan Thorn? Her name on his lips sent ice down her spine. How do you know my name? Your friend Caspian. Alaric gestured toward the door. He was less than subtle when we found him wandering the borders. He's in the kitchens now. Being fed. He's safe. Relief flooded through Rowan. You didn't kill him. Alaric stood. He moved with terrifying economy of motion. 3 long strides brought him to the edge of the bed. He stopped, loomed over her. I have no need for blacksmith's blood. His voice carried no emotion. It tastes of iron and desperation. I prefer silence. He leaned down, placed a hand on the mattress on either side of her. Rowan pressed herself back into the pillows. Her breath came in short, shallow gasps. Up close, he was even more beautiful, even more frightening. Why did you hug me? The question seemed to haunt him. In the woods, you felt how frozen I was. You knew I wasn't human. Why didn't you run? I told you, Rowan's voice trembled. I thought you were freezing. No one should be that frozen. I wanted to help. Alaric stared at her. His silver eyes searched her face like he was reading a language he'd forgotten. You're telling the truth, he said. Wonder colored his voice, actual wonder. You saw something dying in the bitter night, and your first instinct was to offer warmth. He reached out. His long fingers hovered just an inch from her cheek. He could feel the heat radiating from her skin. It was intoxicating. You have brought a spark into a house of ash, he whispered. A knock at the door interrupted them. Viridian entered, the man from the forest, ancient. His hair fell in white waves. He carried a silver-topped cane and moved with the careful precision of someone who'd learned to navigate the world through centuries of practice. My king. Viridian's eyes flicked to Rowan with clinical interest. The council is asking about the human. Let them ask. Alaric straightened. His expression became a mask of indifference. The girl stays until the storm breaks. She's under my protection. And the blacksmith? Release him at the gates. Alaric's voice carried the weight of command. Tell him if he returns, I will not be so hospitable. Wait, Rowan scrambled to the edge of the bed. Let me go with him. My sister needs me. The winter is... Alaric turned at the door. The temperature in the room dropped 20 degrees. Frost formed on the windows. Rowan's breath misted. The storm outside will kill you in minutes, Rowan. His voice was glacier sharp. Here you have fire and food. Out there, you have only the grave. He didn't wait for her response. He swept out of the room. Viridian followed. The door closed with a soft click. Rowan sat alone in the cavernous silence. She walked to the window, pulled back the heavy drapes. Outside, the world was a white void. Wind lashed against the stone walls. Snow fell in sheets so thick she couldn't see the ground. For the first time in her life, Rowan realized that the monsters in the stories weren't the only things to fear. The king had saved her life. But as she looked at the iron bars on the window, she wondered if she'd simply traded one death for another. 3 days passed in a blur of luxury and loneliness. Rowan was given clothes of fine wool and silk, colors like midnight and deep wine, dresses that fit perfectly. She was fed fruits she didn't recognize, berries that tasted of summer, bread still warm from the oven, slathered with butter that melted like gold. But she was a prisoner. Every door she tried was locked. The windows barred. The only person she saw was a silent maid, a woman who moved like smoke and refused to meet Rowan's eyes. She brought food, changed the linens, disappeared before Rowan could ask questions. On the 4th morning, Rowan couldn't stand the silence anymore. She paced the room, counted the stones in the wall, traced the carving on the ceiling, tried the door for the 100th time. It opened. Rowan froze. The lock clicked. The door swung inward, as if someone had forgotten to secure it, or as if someone wanted her to find her way out. Heart racing, she slipped into the corridor. Obsidian Citadel was a labyrinth. Black marble floors stretched in every direction. Blue torches flickered in sconces, casting dancing shadows. The walls were covered in tapestries depicting battles fought before her great-grandfather was born. Rowan walked past galleries of statues. They looked so real she expected them to blink. So lifelike she could see the texture of fabric, individual strands of hair carved in stone. She found herself in a large circular room with a glass dome. Outside, the moon hung full and heavy. Its light illuminated a garden of frozen roses, each petal encased in ice, each stem preserved in crystal clarity. In the center of the room sat Alaric. He wasn't on a throne, he was on the floor, surrounded by old, crumbling books, maps spread across the marble like a sea of parchment. He looked smaller here, less like a king, more like a man drowning in history. Rowan stayed in the shadows, watching. Alaric traced the lines of an old map. His brow furrowed in concentration. He looked tired, actually tired. The weight of 5 centuries visible in the slump of his shoulders. He reached for a glass on a nearby table. His hand slipped. The glass shattered on the marble floor. Crystal exploded into 1,000 pieces. Alaric didn't move. He just stared at the shards. Rowan stepped out of the shadows. "Let me help." Alaric flinched. The movement was almost invisible. In a second, he was on his feet. His silver eyes found her in the darkness. "You should be in your room." "I was bored." Rowan knelt, began picking up pieces of glass. "And I don't like seeing things broken." "Everything in this castle is broken, Rowan." His voice was bitter, "including me." "That's not true." Rowan's fingers brushed against a shard. The sharp edge sliced into her thumb. She hissed, pulled her hand back. In an instant, Alaric was in front of her. He grabbed her hand, his eyes fixed on the small bead of bright red blood blooming on her skin. His pupils dilated, until his eyes were almost entirely black. The air grew heavy, thick with the scent of copper and life. Rowan froze. She saw the hunger in him, raw, primal, the thing the stories warned about. He leaned closer. His nostrils flared. "Go." The word came out as a growl. His voice vibrated with the effort of restraint. "Go now, before I forget that I'm supposed to be a king." But Rowan didn't move. She saw the sweat on his brow, the way his hands shook as he held her wrist. He wasn't a monster enjoying a hunt. He was a man fighting a war with himself. "You're hungry," she whispered. "I'm always hungry." He snarled. "For 500 years I have been empty. Your blood, it smells like sunlight. It's a cruelty to bring it here." Instead of pulling away, Rowan reached up with her free hand. She touched his face. Her warm fingers trailed over his marble, cool skin. "You saved me from the snow," she said softly. "You fed my friend. You aren't what they say you are." Alaric closed his eyes, leaned into her touch for a fraction of a second. It was the first time he'd felt the warmth of a human hand without it being in a gesture of plea or pain. "I am a predator, little bird." His voice was barely a whisper. "You should run." "No." Rowan's thumb brushed his cheekbone. "You're just lonely." The word hung between them. Heavy. True. Alaric's eyes opened. He looked at her with something between horror and longing. Slowly, carefully, Rowan took her injured thumb and pressed it against his lips. "Take what you need," she said. "I trust you." Alaric's eyes snapped wide. He stared at her like she'd spoken in a language long dead. Slowly, his lips parted. He didn't bite. He simply licked the small drop of blood from her skin. The effect was instantaneous. A jolt, like lightning, passed between them. Alaric's eyes cleared. The black receded. The silver returned, brighter than before. He looked at her thumb, the wound already beginning to close. Then at her face. He let go of her hand as if it had burned him. "You shouldn't have done that," he said. His voice was thick with emotion. "Now you've given me a taste of something I can never have." He turned, walked toward the window, looked out at the frozen roses. "The storm is clearing," he said. "Tomorrow, I'll have someone take you home." Rowan looked at his back, those broad shoulders that carried the weight of a kingdom and a curse. She should have been happy, should have been relieved to go back to Thornwick. But as she looked at the king standing alone in his glass room, she felt a different kind of chill. For the first time, the thought of leaving Obsidian Citadel felt like walking back into the blizzard. "What if I don't want to go?" she asked. Alaric didn't turn around, but she saw his hand tighten on the window frame. The stone cracked under his grip. "Then you are a bigger fool than I thought," he whispered, "and I am a more dangerous man than I feared." Behind them, in the shadows of the doorway, Viridian watched. His ancient eyes gleamed with something between concern and calculation. The king had tasted human blood. Not much, just a drop. But it was enough. Everything was about to change. The morning sun hit Obsidian Citadel with blinding brilliance. Rowan woke to light streaming through the barred window. Real light, golden and warm. The storm had broken during the night. She could leave. The thought should have brought relief. Instead, it settled in her chest like a stone. A soft knock at the door. The silent maid entered. But this time she spoke. "His Majesty requests your presence in the East Wing." Her voice was barely a whisper. "He wishes to discuss your departure." Rowan dressed in a simple gray gown. Not the silks she'd been given. Not the velvets. Something plain. Something that reminded her who she was. A girl from Thornwick. A thorn among roses. Nothing more. The East Wing was different from the rest of the castle. Here, windows lined the walls. Light poured in. It illuminated dust motes that danced like tiny stars. Alaric stood at the far end of a long gallery, his back to her. He wore black again, always black. But in the sunlight, she could see the texture of the fabric. Expensive, ancient. The roads are clear, he said without turning. Viridian will escort you to the edge of Thornwick Forest. From there, you can make your own way. Rowan's hands clenched. And the payment you mentioned, the 20,000 gold, will be delivered to whatever address you provide. Now he turned. His silver eyes found hers across the distance. You fulfilled your purpose. The curse is quieter now. You've earned your freedom. The words should have made her happy. They didn't. What if I don't take the money? Rowan heard herself say. Alaric's expression didn't change, but something flickered in his eyes. Something that might have been hope, if hope could exist in a creature 500 years dead. What are you proposing? Rowan crossed the gallery. Her footsteps echoed on marble. She stopped 3 feet from him, close enough to see the faint lines around his eyes, far enough to run if she needed to. You said the curse is quieter, not gone. No, Alaric agreed, not gone. How long do you have before it takes you completely? A pause, long enough that Rowan thought he wouldn't answer. 14 days, he finally said. The next full moon. If I haven't found a pure soul by then, I'll lose what remains of my humanity. I'll become what the villagers think I already am. A monster. A creature of pure hunger. No thought, no feeling, just endless, empty need. Rowan's mind worked. The same mind that had kept her alive in Lady Morgana's house. That had found ways to stretch 3 copper coins into a week's worth of bread. 14 days, she repeated, and you need someone with a pure soul, someone who approaches you without fear or greed, someone who offers warmth freely. Yes, then I'll stay. The words fell between them like a declaration. Alaric's mask cracked, just for a moment, but in that moment, Rowan saw everything. The loneliness, the desperation, the 5 centuries of isolation wrapped around him like chains. You don't know what you're offering, he said. I know exactly what I'm offering. Rowan lifted her chin. 14 days, then I leave with the gold, and you'll be free of whatever curse holds you. Why? The question came out raw. Why would you do this for a stranger, for a monster? Because no one should die alone. The truth of it settled in Rowan's bones, not even a king. Alaric stared at her. His silver eyes searched her face like he was memorizing every line. 14 days, he said, starting today. Starting today, he extended his hand, pale, long-fingered, elegant as a sculpture. Rowan took it. His skin was cool, but not the death chill of corpses. More like marble that had been kept in shadow. Solid, real. There are conditions, Alaric said. He didn't release her hand. The curse requires your presence, daily, for at least 2 hours. You must be in the same room as me, close enough that I can hear your heartbeat. That's all? That's all the curse requires. His thumb brushed over her knuckles. But the council will have their own demands. They'll want to test you, to ensure you're truly pure of soul and not some elaborate trap. Test me how? You'll see. Alaric finally released her hand. Tonight, they're convening at sunset. He turned to leave. Alaric, Rowan said. He stopped. She'd never used his name before. It felt strange on her tongue, intimate. Thank you, she said, for not sending me back. A ghost of a smile touched his lips, the first real smile she'd seen from him. Don't thank me yet, little bird. You haven't met the council. Sunset arrived with crimson light. The council chamber sat at the heart of Obsidian's citadel. A circular room carved from black stone. 5 thrones arranged in a semicircle, each occupied by a figure older than nations. Elder Thorn, sharp-featured, eyes like chips of amber. Elder Lyanna, beautiful in the way winter is beautiful. Deadly. Elder Cassius, built like a mountain, silent as stone. Elder Mordrin, thin as a blade, twice as cutting, and at the center, Viridian, the oldest, the first, the one who had turned Alaric 500 years ago. Rowan stood in the center of the room, 5 pairs of ancient eyes fixed on her. This is the human? Elder Thorn's voice dripped disdain. She looks like she'd break in a strong wind. Appearances deceive, Viridian said mildly. His fingers steepled beneath his chin. The question is not whether she looks strong. It's whether her soul is pure. There's only one way to know for certain. Elder Lyanna rose from her throne. She moved with liquid grace. A predator's walk. The blood chalice. 2 guards entered it, carrying a basin carved from obsidian. They placed it on a pedestal in the center of the room. The basin was filled with liquid that looked like blood, but it didn't smell like blood. It smelled like winter, like the first frost, like the moment before death. The test is simple, Viridian explained. He stood beside Rowan. Sit before the chalice for 1 hour. If your heart remains steady, if fear doesn't consume you, the liquid will glow gold. If you're afraid, if you approach with anything less than purity, it will turn black, and you will die. Rowan's throat went dry. And if I refuse? Then you leave. Elder Mordred's voice was silk over steel, and our king loses his last chance at salvation. He'll become a pharaoh within 14 days, and every living thing for 100 miles will die screaming. No pressure then. Rowan looked at Alaric. He stood against the wall, shadows wrapped around him like a cloak. His face showed nothing, but his hands were clenched into fists. He didn't want her to do this, but he needed her to. Rowan walked to the chalice. She knelt before it. The stone floor was ice against her knees. The liquid in the basin swirled, dark red, almost black. It reflected her face like a mirror made of blood. 1 hour, Viridian said. Starting now. The first 10 minutes were easy. Rowan focused on her breathing, in and out, steady, calm. She thought of her mother, the way she'd sung lullabies, the way her hands had been rough from washing but gentle when they braided Rowan's hair. 20 minutes. The liquid began to move. Tendrils rose from the surface like fingers. They reached toward Rowan's face. She didn't flinch. 30 minutes. Her knees ached. The chills seeped through her dress, through her skin, into her bones. The liquid whispered. Rowan heard voices. Lady Morgana's. You're nothing, Dorian's. I can't marry down. The villagers' burden. Worthless. Better off dead. 40 minutes. The voices grew louder. The tendrils touched her cheeks. Wet, like tears made of ice. You will fail. You always fail. No one wants you. Rowan's pulse began to race. Fear crept in. The edges of her vision darkened. Rowan, Alaric's voice, quiet, steady. Look at me. She raised her eyes, found his across the room. Silver met brown. You are not what they said you were, he said, each word deliberate. You are not a burden, not worthless. You are the only person in 500 years who has looked at me and seen something worth saving. The voices quieted. You have purity of soul, Rowan Thorn, not because you've never been afraid, but because you choose kindness even when the world has given you every reason not to. Rowan's pulse steadied. The liquid in the chalice began to change. Red faded to pink, pink to pale gold, then to brilliant, blazing yellow gold. Light filled the chamber. Warm, alive, like sunrise after endless night. The hour mark passed. Viridian stood. His ancient face showed something that might have been respect. She is pure of soul, he declared. The chalice has spoken. Elder Lyanna leaned forward. Not just pure. Look at the color. That's not standard gold. That's soul flame, Elder Thorn finished. His voice held wonder. She's a soul flame. The first in 300 years. The council erupted into whispers. Rowan stood on shaking legs. She didn't understand what they were saying. Didn't understand why they looked at her with something between awe and fear. Alaric crossed the room. He caught her elbow as she swayed. Steady, he murmured. You did well. What's a soul flame, Mom? Rowan's voice came out hoarse. Rare, Viridian said. He approached them. A soul so pure it can transform curses into blessings, darkness into light. It happens once in a millennium, if that. He looked at Alaric. She doesn't just quiet your curse. She could break it entirely, if she chooses to. The days passed in a strange rhythm. Each evening at sunset, Rowan came to Alaric's study, a room lined with books so old they crumbled at a touch. Maps that showed countries that no longer existed. Artifacts from civilizations long dead. They didn't speak much. Alaric worked at his desk, reviewing reports from Viridian, reading treaties written in languages Rowan didn't recognize. Rowan sat by the fire. Sometimes she read, sometimes she just watched the flames. But every moment, Alaric was aware of her presence, that steady rhythm of breath, proof of life in a house of death. On the third evening, Rowan broke the silence. Tell me about your mother. Alaric's hand stilled on the parchment. Because there's a portrait of her in the hall, and every time you pass it, you look like you're drowning. A long pause. She was kind, Alaric said finally. Too kind. When I caught the wasting sickness, she made a deal with a traveler. Traded our family's fortune for a cure. His jaw tightened. She didn't know the traveler was Viridian. Didn't know the cure meant I'd never die, never age, never see another sunrise. She was trying to save you. She damned me. The words came out harsh. And then she died 6 months later. Heartbroken, knowing what she'd done. Rowan set down her book. Do you hate her? I did, for the first 100 years. Alaric's voice softened. Now I just miss her. I'd give anything to tell her I understand, that I forgive her. Maybe she knows. Maybe? Rowan stood, crossed to his desk. She picked up a leather-bound book. Read to me, something she would have liked. Alaric looked at her for a long moment. Then he took the book, opened it to a page marked with a dried rose. He began to read. A story about a girl who planted a garden in winter, who believed flowers could bloom in snow if you loved them enough. His voice, usually sharp as winter itself, warmed, softened. For an hour he read, and for an hour the study didn't feel like a prison. It felt like a home. The Nightshade Accords, Elder Thorn announced. 2 vampire clans have been at war for 2 centuries. We've tried everything. Mediation. Threats. Nothing works. He dropped a stack of papers on the table in front of Rowan. You claim to have intelligence. Prove it. Find the solution. Rowan looked at the papers, legal documents, treaties, blood contracts written in languages she'd never seen. I'm a seamstress, she said, not a lawyer. Then you're useless. Elder Thorn turned away. Remove her. Wait. Rowan grabbed the top document. Her eyes scanned the text. Old script, but similar enough to the legal papers her father had left behind. The ones she'd read over and over, trying to understand why he'd been in so much debt. She read, flipped pages, read more. 2 hours later, she looked up. The dispute isn't about territories, she said. It's about a bloodline. Both clans claim descent from House Ravencrest. Both believe they're the rightful heirs. Yes, Elder Lyanna said impatiently. That's the problem. There's no way to prove which claim is legitimate. Yes, there is. Rowan pointed to a paragraph buried in the 17th page. House Ravencrest had a tradition. The true heir carries a birthmark, a raven on the left shoulder blade. She flipped to another document. Clan Ashwood's leader. No mention of a birthmark in his physical description. Another page. Clan Duskborn's leader has the raven. Silence. Elder Cassius, who'd been silent throughout, spoke for the first time. His voice rumbled like distant thunder. In 200 years, none of us saw that clause. You weren't looking for it, Rowan said simply. You were looking for complex solutions. Sometimes the answer is simple. You just have to read carefully. Elder Lyanna stood, walked to Rowan, looked down at her with new eyes. She's not just a soul flame, the elder said. She's clever. Viridian smiled, a rare, genuine smile. Indeed. The next 3 days blurred together in a series of small moments. Day 5, Alaric showed Rowan the conservatory, a glass room filled with plants that bloomed year-round, sustained by vampire magic. He picked a white rose and tucked it behind her ear. Neither of them spoke. They didn't need to. Day 6, Rowan discovered Alaric in the armory, staring at a sword. My father's, he said. He died defending this castle from raiders. I was 10. Rowan touched his arm. Just touched it. That was enough. Day 7. They played chess. Alaric won every game, but on the 4th match, Rowan checkmated him. He stared at the board in genuine shock. Then he laughed. A real laugh. The sound echoed through the castle like a bell. Rowan found Alaric on a balcony overlooking the mountains. The sun had set an hour ago. Darkness wrapped around the peaks like a shroud. You're early, he said without turning. I was bored. Bored, a hint of amusement in his voice. In a castle filled with 500 years of artifacts. I've read all the interesting books. Rowan joined him. The others are in languages I don't know. I could teach you. I'd like that. They stood in silence. The wind carried the scent of snow, of pine, of something wild and clean. Do you miss it? Rowan asked, being human? Alaric's hands tightened on the railing. Every day. What do you miss most? Sleep. The answer came quickly. I haven't slept in 500 years. I close my eyes, but I never drift, never dream. I just exist in darkness until I open them again. Rowan's chest ached. That sounds lonely. It is. She reached out, touched his hand. He flinched, but he didn't pull away. Tonight, she said, let me try something. That night, Rowan came to Alaric's chambers at midnight. She brought nothing but herself. Lie down, she said. Alaric looked at her like she'd lost her mind. Rowan, please, just trust me. Slowly he lay on the bed, stiff as a board, his hands folded across his chest. Rowan sat beside him. She began to talk. She told him about Thornwick, about the baker who always burned the bottom of his bread, about the children who played in the square, about the way spring smelled when the snow finally melted. She told him about her mother, about braiding hair, about songs and languages half forgotten. Her voice was soft, rhythmic, a lullaby without melody. Alaric's eyes began to drift closed. "Keep talking," he whispered. So she did. She talked about nothing and everything, and slowly, impossibly, his breathing evened out. His hands unclenched. He didn't sleep. Not really, but for the first time in 500 years, he rested. When Rowan finally stopped talking, the sun was rising. Pink light crept across the floor. Alaric opened his eyes. They were brighter than she'd ever seen them. "Thank you," he said. 2 words, but they carried the weight of centuries. Rowan found Alaric in the ballroom, a vast space of marble and mirrors. Chandeliers hung from the ceiling like frozen waterfalls. He stood in the center, alone. "I used to host gatherings here," he said, "centuries ago, before I realized that immortality meant watching everyone you care about crumble to dust." "Teach me to dance," Rowan said. "What?" "Dance, I've never learned, and this room seems too beautiful to stay empty." Alaric hesitated. Then he extended his hand. "The waltz is simple," he said. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. He placed his hand on her waist. She put hers on his shoulder. They began to move, awkward at first. Rowan stepped on his feet twice. She apologized. He didn't seem to notice. The third time around the room, they found the rhythm. Her pulse matched his steps. His movements flowed with her breath. They danced in silence. No music but the whisper of fabric, the soft pad of feet on marble. Alaric looked down at her. "You're smiling," he said. Rowan realized she was. "So are you." It was true, a real smile. Not the mask he wore for the council. Not the bitter twist of lips he used with Viridian. A genuine smile. It transformed his face. Made him look young. Made him look almost human. "I can't remember the last time I smiled," he admitted. "Maybe you just needed a reason." They spun. The mirrors reflected them from every angle. A girl in gray wool, a king in black silk, moving together like they'd been made for this. The dance ended, but neither of them let go. "Rowan," Alaric said. His voice was rough. Whatever this is, it can't last. You know that." "I know. In 5 days, the 14 days will end. You'll take your gold and leave. You'll go back to your life." "I know. So why does it feel like I'm going to lose something infinitely more valuable than my humanity?" Rowan didn't have an answer. She stood on her toes, kissed his cheek. His skin was smooth against her lips. 5 more days, she whispered. "Let's not waste them." They spent the day in the library. Alaric taught Rowan to read ancient languages. She was a quick study. Within hours, she could decipher basic phrases. "You have a gift for this," Alaric said. "Or a good teacher." Their fingers brushed as they turned a page. Neither of them pulled away. The library was quiet. Rowan sat by the fire reading. She turned the page too quickly. The old parchment, sharp as a knife, sliced across her palm. Blood welled up, bright red against pale skin. The smell hit the air like a thunderclap. Alaric was in the room before Rowan could blink. His eyes were black, completely black. No silver, no white. Just endless hunger. His fangs descended, sharp, deadly. Rowan's pulse stopped, then started again. A frantic drumbeat. Alaric's nostrils flared. He took a step toward her. Then another, moving like a predator. "Alaric," Rowan's voice shook. "It's just a small cut. I'm fine." He didn't respond, didn't seem to hear her. His hand shot out, grabbed her wrist, lifted her bleeding palm toward his face. "You're not fine," he growled. "Your blood, I can hear it, feel it. It's calling to me. Then listen to me instead." Rowan forced herself to stay still, to not pull away. "You're stronger than this. I haven't fed properly in 2 centuries. His voice was breaking, desperate. "I drink animal blood, lifeless, tasteless. But yours is alive, warm. It smells like sunshine and everything I've lost." His lips parted, fangs gleamed. "Please," he whispered, "run, before I do something I can't take back." Rowan didn't run. She took her bleeding palm and pressed it against his lips. "Then take it," she said, "but don't hate yourself after. I'm giving it freely." Alaric's eyes widened. Shock replaced hunger. He pulled back. "I can't, Rowan. You don't understand what you're asking. I understand perfectly. Her hand trembled but stayed steady. You're starving, and I'm offering. That's what friends do. We're not friends. The words came out anguished. We can't be. Then what are we? Alaric stared at her, at the blood on her palm, at the absolute trust in her eyes. Slowly, carefully, he bent his head. He licked the blood from her skin. Once. Just once. The moment his tongue touched her blood, everything changed. Light exploded behind Alaric's eyes. Not the darkness of hunger, but brilliant, golden light. He saw Rowan standing beside him. But not in the library. Somewhere else. Outside. Under the sun. She was laughing. Her hair caught the light. Her hand was in his, and he could feel warmth. Real warmth. Not the ghost of it, but actual heat seeping into his skin. The vision shattered. Alaric stumbled back. His eyes were silver again. Clear. No hunger. No darkness. Just wonder. What was that? He gasped. What was what? Rowan wrapped her hand in her skirt. The bleeding had already stopped. I saw. He shook his head. I saw you in sunlight, and I was there, standing beside you. I felt warm. Rowan's breath caught. The curse. If it breaks, could you walk in daylight? Alaric looked at his hands. They were shaking. I don't know. The legends say if a soul flame chooses to break the curse, but it's never been proven. It's just stories. He looked at her, really looked. Do you know what you are, Rowan Thorn? You're not just purity. You're hope, living, breathing hope. And I haven't had that in 500 years. He reached out, cupped her face. His thumb brushed her cheekbone. I think I'm falling in love with you, he said. And it terrifies me. Rowan's pulse stopped, then started, beating so loud she was sure he could hear it. I'm falling too, she whispered, and I don't want to stop. He leaned in, their lips met. The kiss was cool at first, then warmer, then warm, like ice melting, like spring after endless winter. When they pulled apart, both were shaking. 3 days, Alaric said. We have 3 days left. Then let's make them count. Rowan woke to screaming. She ran to the window. In the courtyard below, chaos. Viridian directing guards. Someone on the ground, bleeding. The door burst open. Alaric stood there, his face a mask of fury. Get dressed. We have a situation. In the throne room, the council was assembled, but they weren't alone. A woman stood before them, tall, silver hair cascading down her back, eyes that burned with amber fire. She looked like Alaric, same high cheekbones, same perfect features. But where Alaric was ice, she was fire. Hello, brother, she said, her voice dripped poison. Did you miss me? Saraphene. Alaric's voice could have frozen the sun. You were banished. The terms were clear. Never return or face execution. Banishment was always so boring. Saraphene smiled. It was the smile of a predator who'd cornered prey. Besides, I heard you found a soul flame. I had to see for myself. Her eyes found Rowan. So this is the girl, the peasant who crawled out of Thornwick. She circled Rowan like a shark. I know all about you, Rowan Thorn. Lady Morgana tells such interesting stories. Rowan's blood turned to ice. You've met Lady Morgana. Met her? Darling, I made a deal with her. Seraphine's smile widened. She gives me information. I give her gold. It's very simple. She pulled something from her cloak, tossed it on the ground, a lock of hair, blonde, the color of wheat. Rowan's knees went weak. Ilara, she whispered. Your sister. Such a sweet girl. Currently residing in a very unpleasant cell beneath Thornwick. Lady Morgana is watching her, keeping her safe. The word dripped sarcasm. If you hurt her, Rowan started forward. Saraphene moved faster. Her hand was at Rowan's throat in a blink. You'll what? Bleed on me? She leaned in, whispered. Here's the deal, little mouse. You leave, right now. Go back to Thornwick. Free your sister. Or I give Morgana permission to kill her. Slowly. Saraphene, Alaric's voice was lethal. Release her. Now. Or what? You'll execute me? Saraphene laughed. Go ahead. But the moment I die, my servant in Thornwick gets a message, and your precious soul-flame sister dies screaming. She released Rowan, stepped back. Tick-tock, brother. The 14 days end in 2 nights. You need her, but she needs to choose. Her sister's life, or your cure. She vanished. 1 moment there. The next gone. Like smoke. Rowan stood frozen, her mind raced. Ilara, her baby sister. The only family she had left. Alaric was beside her. Rowan, I have to go. Her voice was hollow. I have to save her. If you leave now, the curse won't break. He stopped, swallowed. I'll become a feral. Everything we've worked for. My sister is more important than any curse. Tears streamed down Rowan's face. I'm so sorry, but I can't let her die. Viridian stepped forward, his ancient face grave. There may be another way, he said quietly, but it requires a sacrifice neither of you may be willing to make. Both Alaric and Rowan turned to him. Speak, Alaric commanded. In the vault beneath the castle there is a vial, water of eternity. One drop can transform a human into a vampire, or a vampire into a human. He paused. It's been there for 1,000 years, waiting. What are you saying? Rowan asked. If you become a vampire, you'll have the strength to fight Saraphene, to save your sister, and you'll have eternity to help Alaric. Viridian's eyes were sad, but you'll never see another sunrise. Never grow old, never die. And if I use it on Alaric, Rowan asked, if I make him human, the curse breaks immediately. He'll be mortal, weak, unable to protect you, unable to fight his own sister. Viridian shook his head. Saraphene would kill you both. A choice, Rowan or Alaric. Human or vampire. Life or eternity. The room fell silent. Alaric spoke first. His voice was broken. I won't ask you to give up your humanity for me. Then what do? We fight. He turned to the council. Gather every guard, every vampire loyal to this house. We march on Thornwick. We save your sister. And then you become feral, Viridian finished. 2 days, Alaric. That's all you have left. You'll never make it. I'll make it long enough, Alaric's jaw set. Long enough to save her. Rowan grabbed his hand. There has to be another way. There isn't. His silver eyes met hers. But I'd rather die saving you than live 500 more years alone. Outside, storm clouds gathered. In Thornwick, a frightened girl waited in darkness. And in the shadows, Saraphene smiled. The sound of horses filled the courtyard. Rowan stood at the window. Below, Alaric assembled an army, 50 vampire guards, each one ancient, each one deadly. They were preparing for war. Viridian appeared in her doorway. He didn't knock, just materialized. You should eat, he said. The journey to Thornwick is 3 hours. You'll need your strength. I'm not hungry. Nevertheless, he set a tray on the table. Bread, cheese, wine that smelled of summer. The king won't forgive himself if you collapse. Rowan turned from the window. He's really going to do this. March on Thornwick. Start a war for one girl. Not one girl. But Viridian's ancient eyes were kind. The girl, the only one in 500 years who made him remember what it means to be human. He'll turn feral before we even reach the village. Yes, the word hung between them like a death sentence. Then why are you letting him go? Viridian was silent for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice carried the weight of centuries. Because some things are worth dying for. Even for creatures who've forgotten how to die. He moved to leave, stopped at the door. The water of eternity sits in the vault. 1 floor below the throne room, east corridor, 3rd door on the left. He met her eyes. I cannot tell you what to do with it, but I can tell you where it is. He vanished. Rowan stared at the empty doorway. Her mind raced. 1 vial, 1 choice. She looked at the bread on the tray, at the wine, at the simple human things she'd taken for granted her entire life. Then she left the room. The vault was exactly where Viridian said it would be. A door of solid obsidian. No handle, no keyhole, just smooth black stone. Rowan pressed her palm against it. The door recognized her, recognized the soul that had passed the blood chalice test. It swung open. Inside, the vault was small, circular, the walls lined with shelves holding artifacts older than memory, a crown of bones, a sword that wept blood, a mirror that showed only the dead. At the center, on a pedestal of white marble, sat a crystal vial. The liquid inside glowed, soft, ethereal, like captured moonlight, water of eternity. Rowan's hand trembled as she reached for it. The vial was warm, alive. It pulsed against her palm like a second heartbeat. She could drink it now, transform, become strong enough to save Alara, strong enough to fight beside Alaric, but she'd never see another sunrise, never grow old, never have children or grandchildren, or the simple, precious life she'd always dreamed of. Or she could give it to Alaric, make him human, save him from becoming feral. But then he'd be weak, mortal, unable to protect anyone. Rowan closed her fingers around the vial, a voice behind her. I was wondering when you'd come here. She spun. Alaric stood in the doorway, still in his black armor, still preparing for battle, but his eyes were different now. Tired, resigned. You knew? Rowan asked. Viridian doesn't do anything without a reason. Alaric stepped into the vault. He told you where to find it because he wanted you to have a choice. What choice? Damn myself or damn you? Save yourself. Alaric's voice was firm. Take the vial, pour it into wine, drink it tonight. By morning, you'll have the strength to rescue your sister, to fight Saraphene, to survive, and leave you to become a monster? I've been a monster for 500 years. At least this way, one of us gets a happy ending. Rowan's hand tightened on the vial. That's not a happy ending. That's a tragedy. All love stories are tragedies, little bird. The only question is, who survives to tell them? He turned to leave. Wait, Rowan's voice cracked. What if there's another way? There isn't. What if we both drink it? Half for you, half for me. Alaric froze. That's not how it works. The transformation requires the full dose. Half would just... He stopped. Actually, I don't know what half would do. It's never been tried. Then maybe it's time to try. She crossed to him, held up the vial. The liquid inside swirled. Luminescent. Beautiful. Together, she said, we face this together. Maybe we both transform halfway. Maybe we both get the best of both worlds. Or maybe we both die. Alaric's hand covered hers on the vial. I won't let you take that risk. It's not your choice. Rowan's chin lifted. I'm choosing, for both of us. Together or not at all. They stood there, hands intertwined around the vial. Two people who'd found each other in impossible circumstances. Alaric's resolve crumbled. If we do this, he whispered. If we survive, promise me something. Anything. Promise me you'll find something worth living for, even if it's not me. It will always be you. Outside, a bell tolled. The army was ready to march. Alaric pulled away. We leave in 10 minutes. If you're coming, meet me at the gates. He left. Rowan stood alone in the vault. The vial warm in her hand, she made her choice. The march to Thornwick took 3 hours. 50 vampires moved through the forest like shadows. Silent, deadly. The trees themselves seemed to recoil from their passage. Rowan rode beside Alaric. He'd given her a horse. Black as midnight. It obeyed her perfectly. They didn't speak. There was nothing left to say. The vial sat in Rowan's pocket. She could feel its warmth through the fabric. A constant reminder. Not yet. Not until they reached Thornwick. Not until she'd seen Alara safe. Then she'd decide. The forest thinned. Ahead, the lights of Thornwick flickered through the trees. Alaric raised his hand. The army stopped. Out ahead! Ahead, he commanded. 2 vampires vanished. They returned in minutes, their faces grim. The village square is full. Humans, armed with torches and silver weapons. How many? Alaric asked. 200, maybe more. The vampire's eyes found Rowan. They're being led by a woman. She's calling for the witch to be burned. Rowan's blood ran ice cold. Lady Morgana. And there's something else. The scout hesitated. Saraphene is there, with a girl, blonde, young. She's using her as bait. Alara. Rowan kicked her horse forward. Alaric caught the reins. Not yet. We need a plan. The plan is simple. I go in. I trade myself for my sister. You and your army stay here. Absolutely not. It's the only way. Rowan's voice was steel. If you march in with an army, they'll panic. People will die. But if I go alone, if I prove I'm not afraid, maybe we can end this without bloodshed. Saraphene will kill you the moment you're within reach. Then you'll have to trust that I'm smarter than I look. Alaric stared at her. His silver eyes searched her face. I can't lose you, he said quietly. Then have a little faith. She pulled the reins from his grip, kicked the horse into a gallop. Behind her, Alaric shouted orders. But she didn't listen. She rode hard, fast, toward the village she'd called home, toward the sister she'd died to protect. Thornwick Square blazed with torchlight. 200 people, maybe more. Farmers, blacksmiths, bakers, weapons they barely knew how to use. At the center, a wooden platform, the kind used for executions. Lady Morgana stood on it, dressed in black, looking like a judge at the end of the world. Beside her, Saraphene, silver hair catching firelight, eyes glowing amber. Between them, tied to a post, was Alara. Rowan's sister looked small, terrified, her blonde hair matted with dirt, her dress torn, but alive. Alive. Rowan rode into the square. The crowd parted like water. She dismounted, walked forward, every eye on her. "I'm here," she called. Her voice rang clear. "Let my sister go." Lady Morgana smiled. "The prodigal daughter returns. How touching. I'll trade myself, me for Alara. Isn't that what you want?" "What I want," Lady Morgana said, "is for you to burn, to pay for the humiliation you have caused this family, running off to live with monsters. I lived with you for 4 years. If anyone knows monsters, it's me." The crowd murmured. A few people laughed. Lady Morgana's face darkened. "Seize her," she commanded. 3 men moved forward. Rowan recognized them. The butcher, the tanner, the baker's son. "Wait," Rowan said. She pulled something from her pocket. "I have something you want." The vial of water of eternity gleamed in the torchlight. The crowd gasped. Even Lady Morgana's eyes widened. "Is that—" Saraphene stepped forward. Greed flashed across her face. "The water? 1 drop makes you immortal," Rowan said. "Isn't that right? 1 drop gives you eternal life, beauty, power, everything you've ever wanted." She held it up. The liquid swirled, hypnotic. "I'll give it to you, in exchange for my sister." "And the king?" Saraphene asked. "Where is your precious Alaric?" "Waiting in the forest. He won't come unless I signal. So if you want this," she shook the vial, "you trade now." Lady Morgana and Saraphene exchanged glances. Some silent communication passed between them. "Fine," Saraphene said. "Bring the girl." A guard untied Alara, pushed her forward. Alara stumbled, fell to her knees. Rowan caught her, pulled her close. "Are you hurt?" Rowan whispered. "No, I'm okay." "Rowan, what are you doing? You can't trust them." "I know. Run. When I say run, you run and don't look back." "The vial," Saraphene demanded. "Give it here." Rowan pushed Alara behind her, held up the water of eternity. "Catch." She threw it. High, arcing through the air, spinning end over end. Saraphene lunged. Her hand closed around it, and Rowan ran. She grabbed Alara's hand, pulled her through the crowd. People shouted, grabbed at them. But Rowan was fast, desperate. Behind them, Saraphene screamed, "It's empty! The vial is empty!" Because it was. Rowan had poured the contents into a water skin that morning, the one currently tucked inside her dress, against her chest. The crowd erupted into chaos. Rowan and Alara reached the edge of the square, almost to the forest. A figure stepped out of shadows. Dorian, Rowan's former fiancé, the man who'd returned her ring. He held a crossbow, loaded with a silver-tipped bolt. "I'm sorry, Rowan," he said, "but Lady Morgana pays well. And you're worth more dead than you ever were alive." He fired. The bolt flew. Rowan pushed Alara down. The bolt missed her sister by inches. But a second bolt followed. This one from the crowd. This one aimed true. It caught Rowan in the shoulder. She went down hard. Pain exploded through her, white hot. Burning, silver. The bolt was tipped with silver. Alara screamed. Tried to drag Rowan up. Then the forest erupted. 50 vampires poured into the square. Led by Alaric, he was a force of nature, moving faster than eyes could track. He disarmed Dorian with one hand, sent him flying with the other. Saraphene met him in the center of the square. Brother and sister, ice and fire. They collided with a sound like thunder. Alaric fought like a demon, but Saraphene was fresh, rested, and he'd been growing weaker by the hour, the curse eating him from the inside. Rowan tried to stand. Her shoulder screamed. Blood soaked through her dress. Silver poisoning, spreading through her veins. Alara pulled her toward the forest. "We have to go. Rowan, please." "No." Rowan's hand found the water skin. "Not yet." She pulled it free. The water of eternity sloshed inside. Alaric and Saraphene fought in a blur of motion. He was slowing. She was winning. A blade appeared in Seraphine's hand. She drove it toward Alaric's chest. He caught her wrist. Barely. "You're dying, brother," Saraphene hissed. "Can you feel it? The curse taking you?" "I've felt it for 500 years. "Then let me end your suffering." She twisted. The blade inched closer. "Alaric!" Rowan's voice cut through the chaos. He turned, just for a second. Seraphine's blade found its mark. It punched through Alaric's chest, through armor, through flesh. He staggered, fell to his knees. Blood, dark and thick, spread across his shirt. Rowan screamed. She ran, pain forgotten, silver poisoning forgotten. She crossed the square and fell beside him. "No, no, no, no." Her hands pressed against the wound. Blood poured through her fingers. "You can't die. You can't." "Rowan," his voice was fading. "Run, please." "I'm not leaving you." Saraphene stood over them, triumphant. How sweet. The peasant girl mourning her monster. Don't worry, you'll join him soon. She raised her blade. Rowan pulled the water skin free, uncorked it with her teeth. You want immortality? She said. Then watch what it costs. She poured the water of eternity into Alaric's mouth. Every last drop. The effect was instantaneous. Light exploded from Alaric's body. Brilliant, blinding, white gold and devastating. The crowd screamed, shielded their eyes. The light grew brighter, hotter. Rowan felt it burning through her. The silver bolt in her shoulder began to dissolve. The poisoning reversed. Because they'd shared blood, when Alaric licked the cut on her thumb, when their bond formed, whatever transformation he was undergoing, she was part of it. Alaric's back arched, his mouth opened in a soundless scream, his skin flushed, from marble pale to sun-touched. His chest rose, fell, rose again. He was breathing. The wound in his chest sealed. The blade fell away. And when his eyes opened, they were no longer silver. They were hazel, flecked with gold. Human eyes. Rowan? His voice was different, warm, alive. What did you do? I saved you. The light faded. Obsidian citadel, visible on the distant mountain, began to shake. The castle that had stood for 500 years, held together by vampire magic and ancient curses. Without its king, it began to crumble. Towers fell, walls collapsed. The sound of destruction rolled across the valley like thunder. Saraphene stared at the ruins, at Alaric, at Rowan. You made him human. Horror filled her voice. You destroyed everything. No, Alaric stood. He was unsteady, weak, but he stood. She freed me. He looked at his hands, at the color in his skin. He pressed his palm to his chest. I can feel it, he whispered. After 500 years, it's beating. Saraphene lunged, but she was slow now. Without Alaric as the vampire king, his bloodline lost its power. She was still immortal, still strong, but not strong enough. Viridian appeared, caught Saraphene mid-lunge, held her in an iron grip. Enough, child, the ancient vampire said. Your brother is free. Let him have his peace. I'll kill them both, Saraphene snarled. No. Viridian's voice carried absolute authority. You'll sleep. He pressed 2 fingers to her temple. Seraphine's eyes rolled back. She went limp. I'll take her north, Viridian said, to the ice wastes. She'll sleep for a century, maybe longer. He looked at Alaric. You chose mortality, Viridian said. Sadness colored his voice. I hope it's enough. It will be. Viridian nodded. He lifted Saraphene and vanished. The crowd stood frozen, 200 people who'd come to burn a witch, now watching a miracle. Lady Morgana stepped forward, her face twisted with fury. This changes nothing. She's still a traitor. Enough! The voice came from the edge of the square, strong, commanding. Caspian emerged from the crowd, the blacksmith, Rowan's friend, behind him a dozen others. The midwife, the seamstress, the old woman who sold flowers. People Rowan had helped over the years, small kindnesses she'd forgotten. Rowan saved this village, Caspian said. While we were preparing to burn her, she was protecting us from a vampire war. He turned to the crowd. Lady Morgana sold her stepdaughter's wedding dress to pay gambling debts, drove her into a blizzard to die, then called her a witch when she survived. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. And Dorian, Caspian's eyes found the blacksmith's apprentice. You fired a crossbow at an unarmed woman. For money. Dorian's face went white. Rowan Thorn has more honor in her smallest finger than Lady Morgana has in her entire body. The crowd shifted, people lowered their weapons. Lady Morgana saw the tide turning. She tried to run, but Alara stepped in her path. Rowan's sister, small, frightened, but brave. You told me Rowan abandoned me, Alara said. You said she chose monsters over family, but the only monster I see is you. Lady Morgana raised her hand to strike. Rowan caught her wrist. Don't, Rowan said quietly. Don't make this worse. She released Lady Morgana, stepped back. The constable will take you into custody, Rowan said. You'll stand trial for fraud, for attempted murder, for every cruelty you've inflicted. The constable stepped forward, placed iron cuffs on Lady Morgana's wrists. You'll regret this, Lady Morgana hissed. I regret nothing, Rowan said, except that I didn't stand up to you sooner. Lady Morgana was led away. Caspian approached. He looked at Alaric. Is he? Human, Rowan confirmed. Completely human. Caspian extended his hand. Then welcome to mortality. It's terrifying and brief and absolutely worth it. Alaric shook his hand. The simple gesture seemed to overwhelm him. I can feel everything, he whispered. The cold air, her warm hand, the ache in my chest. He laughed, a broken, beautiful sound. It hurts, and it's perfect. The cottage overlooked the sea, small, simple, with a garden that Rowan tended every morning. Alaric worked in the village. As a carpenter, his centuries of knowledge made him exceptional. He could carve wood into shapes that seemed to breathe. People came from miles around. He never told them who he'd been, what he'd been. He was just Alaric, the carpenter who lived with his wife in the cottage by the sea. Every morning he woke before dawn, walked to the window, watched the sun rise, and every morning tears streamed down his face because he could see it, feel it, the warmth on his skin, the light in his eyes. 500 years in darkness, now bathed in gold. Rowan found him there one morning, tears on his cheeks, hand pressed to the glass. Still not used to it? She asked softly. I don't think I'll ever be used to it. He turned, pulled her into his arms. Every sunrise feels like the first miracle. You've seen a million sunrises before you were turned. Yes, but I didn't appreciate them. Didn't understand what I had until it was gone. He kissed her forehead. Now every moment feels precious. Every breath is a gift. They stood together, watching the sun climb higher. A knock at the door. Alara stood on the threshold. She visited once a week. Lady Morgana's trial is set for next month, Alara said. They found evidence of fraud going back 10 years. She'll be in prison for the rest of her life. Good, Rowan said. And you? Happy. Alara smiled. The baker's son proposed. We're getting married in spring. That's wonderful. After Alara left, Rowan and Alaric walked to the cliffs. The sea crashed below. Endless. Eternal. Do you miss it? Rowan asked. The power? The immortality? Not even for a second. Alaric laced his fingers through hers. I have something better. I have time. Real, precious, limited time. And I'm going to spend every second of it with you. He pulled her close. They said I was broken, Rowan whispered. Worthless. A burden. They were wrong. They said you were a monster, beyond redemption. They were wrong about that, too. They kissed as the sun warmed their faces, as the sea sang below. Two broken things made whole by choosing each other. In Obsidian Citadel's ruins, ice flowers had begun to bloom, white and delicate, growing from the rubble, life returning to a place of death. And in Thornwick, the villagers told a new story, not of monsters and curses, but of a girl who'd been called worthless, who'd proven she was priceless, who'd saved a king by teaching him how to be human. Alaric tilted his face to the sun, closed his eyes. Thank you, he whispered. For what? Rowan asked. He opened his eyes, hazel gold and shining. For teaching me that the greatest power isn't living forever. It's living well, living with purpose, living with love. He pulled her into his arms. They called you frozen, she said against his chest. But you're the warmest person I know. Because of you. His voice broke. All because of you. The sun climbed higher. The sea whispered secrets. And two people who'd been lost in darkness finally found their way home. Not to a castle of obsidian and ice, but to each other, to sunrise, to warmth, to life.